I understand that you're a person who identifies as transgender. And so, what can you share with us about your own gender journey? Because
Yeah.
you mentioned that you were reluctant to kind of come out in a way, and
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe in this arena and this very, podcasting and so on is really a big,
Yeah. Let's see. Well, just to say a bit about me as far as I identify, I don't actually identify as transgender, although I have a transgender history. I very much identify as male. And so just as far as languaging goes around that, that would be more how I would see myself. There are some people in the community who do see themselves as trans or trans man or trans woman or that kind of stuff.
yeah,
And for me, that's my internal sense of self is as male, but I do have a transgender history. So I'll identify as a male who was assigned female at birth is one way that I could say
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So yeah, that I have a history and I understand the experience of going through this. And also I would say that every person's experience is very unique. Mine actually started, and part of what actually got me into doing this work um, at that intersection, I was pretty what we would call stealth. I was not out about being trans. Like when I was going
right.
to residency, they didn't know my my history. They knew I was part of something in the LGBT community because I had a lot of knowledge about stuff, but nobody ever really knew. And I have a female partner. And actually, that's one of the beautiful things about my journey is that we went through this together. We've been together for almost 34 years. And so,
Yeah, wow.
so we went through this after we'd been together for quite a while. And, but I was not out because I didn't want to be known as a transgender therapist. I wanted to be known as a family therapist because that was where my
Yeah,
love family work and not to have that sort of tag following me. But after the Pulse nightclub shooting, that really hit me hard. And when that happened, I realized, and the way it sort of got washed over as not being a gay club, primarily people of color. There's so much about it that was very upsetting to me that I just couldn't be silent anymore. So I made it
yeah,
to be more out about who I am and to use, that as part of, when I'm talking to people and I'm sharing and I'm teaching, because I used to teach and not share that stuff. And what I realized is when I don't bring my whole self into it, it's a little flat.
yeah, yeah. So,
When
so
people,
how old were you when you first realized that there was this something different about you?
yeah, well, three was when I told my family,
Three,
yeah,
three?
was
Wow.
but that's not when I transitioned. So I was three. I'm also 60 years old this next week, actually. And so, the world was very different then. And my parents did what most parents do. They told me, oh no, honey, you're not. You've got these parts, so you're actually a girl. And logically that made sense to me, although that's not how I felt. But what
Yeah,
I did was I all went underground and I also had a very tight connection with my Italian roots, and there was a thing about familia and the family being so important, and I didn't want to mess that up. I was trying to figure out how to be a good kid,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And so it really went underground, and it went underground, and and actually in going underground, I got into a lot of trouble and had a lot of problems. Luckily I survived to adulthood, um, trying to just be okay with myself in the world. And then, when I was 34, I had what I call an epiphany moment, which everybody has at some point. It's not usually where the journey starts, but it's the moment where we realize, oh, this is a trans experience and I need to do something about it. And actually, I did what most people do when they first find out. I tried to shut it down. And
yeah,
it took about another year before I was like, okay, I can't shut this down. I can't put it away. I can't make it go away. And I was starting to get depressed and wasn't willing to go into that space. So then I started exploring the journey of where does this need to go for me? And I really didn't want to transition. That wasn't, I had learned how to survive by becoming an academic and I had become successful and I was afraid I would lose everything. And I really didn't want to transition if I didn't have to, but I allowed
yeah, right.
and the journey took me here, which is completely, I walk through the world now, nobody knows that I'm trans. I just look
Yeah.
like an older guy.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. Right.
yeah.
We're in such a politically, it's so politicized right now, and what feels like a very dangerous moment. And I'm wondering, uh, how are you? Maybe you're lucky to live in the Bay Area. I don't know if that makes the situation better for you, less dangerous. What's your safety meter say at this point?
Yeah, I would say no, not less dangerous. I mean, it is less dangerous to live in the Bay Area, but to be out as a provider of care to youth in this current political climate is very dangerous. And many of us who are doing this work get regular death threats and things like that. So there's a bit of having to protect yourself
Yeah.
out there that you didn't have to think about. As a therapist, you go out there, you just want to help people. You're not thinking about becoming a target.
Right.
And there is a piece of that that is a part of doing this work right now. And as a person, generally I'm pretty safe in the world if nobody knows I'm trans, but
Yeah.
if into other areas like the political climate is so hard for the families I work with, so hard for everybody. It has been a dangerous world all along for trans people, but it's kind of gone up a few notches. And like if I was to go to Florida at this point with the laws that they have there, it's actually considered a do not travel state for the trans and particularly or the queer community right now around the world because it's so dangerous. If I was to go there, given their new laws that they're passing, if they knew my assigned sex, I could be considered frauding, and I think they're considering it a felony to have my driver's license say male on it.